Morning, everybody. Happy hump day. Happy graduation day. It's finally here. For some of you have absolutely failed, and especially when I'm seeing who has and has not watched the WTF class on the listing agreement. If you haven't done that yet, I would strongly recommend you go back to my YouTube channel and get that done sometime this week. The agreement itself will not be discussed in today's class. This is the pre-listing presentation, not the listing presentation. So you just want to be sure that you have all of that ready to go in your arsenal. So let's get right into it. We're all about getting listings and then how we, in essence, win that listing before we walk through the door. That's the general name of this class. I teach this on a regular basis. It's typically once a month as part of our ongoing Rev Up series. So, just generally speaking, there are several reasons for securing listings. And I understand that that may seem a bit off right now because of market conditions. Like listings, we don't want listings. We want viable buyers. Listings are just sitting. Well, they're just sitting if they're not being handled correctly, meaning that they're not priced correctly, they weren't instructed to stage correctly, they are not the best looking home for the lowest price in the neighborhood. Those are the types of listings that we want to focus on. But overall, you will have a greater control over your time. I think that this just goes without saying, right? Some of you I've shared with in the past that at one point I was working with short sales and REOs. I personally, as a solo agent, had 50 listings at a single point in time. I did not have a team. I did not have a transaction coordinator. That was just me handling 50 listings, which admittedly in hindsight was stupid, but now you know. Could you ever feasibly handle 50 buyers at the same time? Absolutely not. Could you maybe handle 5 buyers at a single point in time? Maybe, depending on how needy they are, maybe. But you have a lot more to do in the field with buyers. You have to actually be out and showing them homes. Even on the contract side, there's a lot more to manage when it comes to buyers as opposed to sellers. So again, we're just looking to be a time saver for you. Building a reputation in your marketplace. What better way than to have your signs in yards, right? That's the number one way to start building up your name brand recognition. Being able to host regular open houses at your own listings is another great way to do that. If you're sending out just listed, just sold cards, all of those things are building your brand recognition within that designated area. And most sellers become buyers. They have to go somewhere unless they died, in which case they did go somewhere, and you probably don't sell burial plots because that's not within your purview. But that does require a real estate license. So you ultimately have other transactions that you may be able to participate in, whether you're personally representing them or you are referring them out to someone in another state, another type of property, whatever the case may be. So there's an old adage, and it's list to last. That ultimately that is the name of the game. While we love working with buyers in some capacity, some of us sometimes, if you really want to excel in real estate and you want to be around for a long time, you need to become a master listing agent. So getting right into the steps of the listing process. Okay, so somebody just called you or you met you at an open house or in some way was put in touch with you regarding selling their home. So the first thing I recommend, and we kind of got into this when we discussed CMAs, because ultimately we have some questions as it's going to relate to the valuing or valuation of their property. So this is generally just done over the phone. It might be done in person, but generally over the phone. And a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind, and I want you to actually ask so that you know what you're going to be up against when you go walk through that door. How much do you think your home is worth? Okay, there's a full on questionnaire about give me the details of your property, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but I want to know some other critical questions that you may not have even thought to ask because they don't necessarily have to do with the features of the home itself or their urgency to move. So how much do you think your home is worth? In some cases, they will tell you, well, we don't know. You're the professional. That's why we're asking you to come over and talk to us about this and let us know what it's worth. They are liars. They have a preconceived number in their head as to what they think their home is worth. So I will let you know at a bare minimum, check Zillow. because I promise you they have. So I need to know, am I going in as a hero? Probably not when it comes to Zillow. Or am I going to be the villain and I have to have this hard conversation with them about what their home is actually worth? And then I also have to be prepared to explain why Zillow is so far off. Then, like we discussed with CMAs, tell me about your home. Any recent remodeling or upgrades? Send me photos, or let's view or schedule a viewing. This is not the listing appointment. This is a opportunity for you to go in and check out the house and determine what you need to incorporate into your CMA discussion so that you are better prepared for it and you know going in how things that they have in their house may negatively or positively adjust value, as well as having a preliminary list of things that they're going to need to do to bring it up to what I would say selling standard. And then where are you moving? And again, that's just to kind of find out what their expectations are, what their urgency is, if we have an opportunity to either assist them with that or refer them out. This is a big one right now, guys. So many of you are taking listings that I absolutely would not take. So as part of your questioning, you need to qualify the seller. Do they have to sell right now? Because I will tell you, one of the worst things I could hear in this market is we just want to test it. Or, well, we don't have to sell. We just want to know how much we can get for it. Well, that's nice. You can do that on somebody else's dollar and time because it's not going to be mine. I'm not playing these games. You either have an urgent desire to sell your home, and I've had this conversation with several of you. You as the agent can't want to sell their home more than they do. Okay, that's a recipe for disaster. They need to be motivated to sell, especially in this market, because they're going to have to do whatever it takes to get it done. I need to know if they have room to negotiate on price and concessions, because if not, I will let them know if you don't have to sell and you don't have room to negotiate, this is not going to be the market to sell in. I'm not going to give you some false sense of hope. I'm going to tell you right now that you need to not list your home in this market. Now, if they do have to sell and they don't have any room to negotiate, this is a different conversation because now we're looking at a short sale potentially. So we're not saying that we're going to get, completely tell them to go away simply if they don't have room to negotiate, but we need to have that conversation in conjunction with their motivation. And then after you have this initial conversation over the phone, you're getting your questions answered, you have a little more preparation and idea, you want to set the actual listing appointment. Okay, so you're not getting off the phone with them until you have a date scheduled or you've already turned them down. So one of my favorite things is telling people no. And I think that you can do this in such a way that it's still done with grace, but you need to make sure that that message is being conveyed accordingly. So a very simple phrase, and I have used this so many times and I've encouraged you to use it too, not just with sellers, but also with buyers. I am in the business of exceeding expectations and I don't believe I will exceed yours. I would rather turn you down now than disappoint you later. Thank you for your consideration and I wish you the very best. Ooh, that's a powerful little get out of jail free card. They're not expecting you to not want their business, right? But trust me, you don't want everybody's business. It will just weigh on you. So this is an easy way to just back out of whatever you've gotten yourself into. I've had people who are already under contract, a listing agreement or a buyer, not an actual purchase contract, a listing agreement or a buyer broker agreement, who have had to go back and use this phrase to step out of that agreement because they've discovered what a PITA, which is an acronym for pain in the ass, in case you don't know, that particular client was. So know this, use this. I was like, what is happening in the chat? But okay, Joanna's on the move. We're all monitoring Joanne, so hopefully she's got some good stuff going. All right, the second step is your research and preparation phases. And this we did extensively last week, right? This was the CMA part of the class. And part of that CMA is going above and beyond to really determine where value lies. So of course, we have that find the 3 most similar homes that have recently sold. Okay, we talked about the 331 and how really that's expanded now because of the circumstances, and it's like 312 1/2. But even more so, go to the property itself before you're meeting them in person. Bare minimum, drive by and see if there's anything of concern to you right away from the exterior, because curb appeal is a major consideration. And oftentimes it reflects what's going on the inside of the house as well. So again, I just want to be better prepared, or at least as best prepared as possible, when I actually meet with them in person. And this isn't limited to simply checking out the house and the curb appeal of the property itself. What's going on with the neighbors? What's going on in the neighborhood? What's going on in the community areas? How many turns did it take you to get to this house? Is there anything undesirable like power lines running in the vicinity? I want to know all these things so, again, I can go in very knowledgeable to the appointment. In addition to the physical CMA and you actually driving by the property, I used to refer to those as drive-bys, and then I had to rein myself in because of the neighborhood I grew up in, and drive-by has a very different meaning. So we're not going to refer to them as drive-bys anymore, okay, guys? But you will drive past the home through the neighborhood to get a general idea as to what's going on in there. And you have some additional resources available as well. Now, these types of things, just a heads up, your Cromford report, my market report, your rapid stats, these are very broad scope type details for market stats. Okay, this is not specific to their home. These are going to be cities and zip codes in Maricopa County. But what these are helpful with is showing market trends overall. Because with a very few exceptions, most of the areas are following the same trends. So these are just helpful things to share that, hey, I'm not just calling you and your property out. This is just what's happening in this zip code, in this subdivision, in this city, so that you know what, again, you're up against. After you're done with all of the initial research and preparation, you've driven through, you've driven past, you have gone ahead and compiled your data, you've researched what's going on in that city and zip code, and you've already initiated working on your CMA. Okay, so now step 3 is actually delivering something to their house. So this is done prior to meeting with them in person. Now, if you did the 2-step listing presentation, meaning I first went over to go ahead and check things out, to take my photos, write my notes, make sure that I knew what was going on in the house, you can leave this with them at that time. So the big bulk of today is actually going to be showing you a true pre-listing package, the actual bound program that you would share with them. And like, you want that done before you meet with them for the actual listing presentation. Okay, this is what sets you apart from 99% of your competition. It's, of course, knowing your shit, but it is also having everything prepared and ready to go in a professional way that you have stood out. You're not just meeting with them with the expectation, hey, I'm going to get this listing and I've done nothing in preparation for it. You are leaving them something physical, something tangible that is of value to them. This little guy on the left, not the man, but the actual box, this little marketing option, I have not seen one of these in person. I saw this on Etsy and I thought this was super slick. So he's got his QR codes on there, his marketing information on there, and he actually puts just some like magnets, pens, whatever nonsense crap we have, along with a handwritten note and his marketing plan inside this box, and he leaves it at the front door for them. Back when I was doing this more regularly, I didn't have a cool box like this. I had baskets, and I would put I had a little box that was branded to me that you could put like treats in. So I would put something that doesn't melt, lesson learned, something that doesn't attract ants, lesson learned, but like pretzels. Inside, right now you could put salad. I'm just kidding. No, nobody wants your salad. Don't leave that out. But like something like pretzels or peanuts or something similar that I would put in. And then I would have that. I would have a pen, a magnet. I'd have my bound pre-listing presentation, or what I'm going to refer to as your marketing proposal. And I would have that all set up and ready to go. I would attach balloons to the basket. I would leave it by the front door. And then I would text them to let them know that I dropped that off in preparation for our meeting the following day, whatever that was going to be. To this day, I haven't even been practicing real estate for 12 years. And I still have a client named Randy who still refers to me as the basket girl. Like he'll just randomly reach out to me and just chat about how, how things are going, blah, blah, blah. I have sold 7 properties between him and his family members. I have survived 3 wives in the time that I've known him. He has been a great source of business because he keeps getting divorced. So ultimately, I have to sell those homes. The wives love me too, so it works out just fine. But still, yes, he will laugh about, oh, yeah, my little basket girl. Basket case, basket girl, it doesn't matter. I'll take it. But again, it was just such a unique way to stand out. So come up with something. But the name of the game is make sure that whatever you have, whatever you've prepared, you've put together, you are delivering that at least 24 hours before your listing appointment with them. Okay, I'll show you a sample of what a cover letter looks like. The handwritten thank you note, it just needs to be simple. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to discuss your home sale needs with you. I look forward to meeting with you tomorrow. Boom, done. Put your business card in there, lay that on top, and you're good to go. The color printed and bound marketing proposal. So again, what we've referred to as a pre-listing presentation or a pre-listing packet, I want you to get that out of your vernacular. What we want to refer to it as is a marketing proposal. A very, very wise man who was a former president of NAR said that one of the greatest injustices that we do is give names to things that don't make sense to anyone else, that we need to jive with our consumer. And the best way to do that is to use words that make more sense. So he's like, they don't care. Listing, pre-listing package. They don't know or care about what that means. You want to tell them how you're going to market their home for sale. So call it your marketing proposal. So I've stolen that from him. And now I'm sharing it with you that that's what you're going to tell them, that you're going to drop off your marketing proposal, or that I've dropped off my marketing proposal for you to review prior to our meeting tomorrow. This cover letter is super simple, and it does have that assumption built into it that you're going to be so razzled and dazzled by me, so wowed, that you're absolutely going to want to work with me. So I'm going to go ahead and put forth a little effort now to let you know what I'm going to need from you so we can get this baby going. And super simple, 1 page, if not even just half a page, enclosed with some information. I would oftentimes leave them with a seller guide in addition to my marketing proposal, or consider even leaving copies of some of the listing documents for their review in advance. There are other different ways to do this, so just kind of consider how you want to handle your business. But bare minimum, you need your marketing proposal, and let them know you'll need a spare key for the lockbox, a recent mortgage statement. Why? Because we want to verify that they have the funds in there, the equity that we can sell without being a short sale. The homeowners association information, if applicable, you could leave them with page 1 of the HOA addendum, leave them with the SPUDs, tell them that they need to fill those things out. And if it applies, then we need a copy of their trust or their LLC docs. I just want to have everything possible ready to go with this listing when the time comes. So now it comes to Leah, what am I actually putting into that marketing proposal? What does that look like? I'm so glad you asked. So I'm going to share mine with you, and we're not going to laugh. We've discussed this. This is a safe space. So just because Leah used to use PowerPoint for everything 15 years ago doesn't mean that we need to tease her about it now. So I will share with you what mine had so you can get a general idea, and I'm going to give you some other samples as well. But you do have a gorgeous listing presentation available to you through One Creative Studio. What I don't love about it is, and I'll show you so you can see what I'm talking about. What I don't love about this one is this is definitely not a Phoenix skyline, which isn't a problem. Like, this is totally dynamic, completely editable. So you can go in and you can take a minute to go ahead and put something that has a cactus in there. That would be my recommendation. You can remove pages from here that just don't make sense. There's a lot of information about the company, and it's not hyper local information. It's just Realty One Group as a whole, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if maybe you're a newer agent and you need some supporting data that's outside of your own to present. But good Lord, don't do all of this. This is just way, way, way too much information. They also include comps in their package. I do not recommend doing that. I don't recommend giving a seller comp information in advance of your in-person meeting because I think that that's a discussion. That's not a, oh, here, take it and run. Good luck to you. But you can see, I mean, it's very pretty. But there would be a lot of edits you would need to do. Now, the beauty of this, keep in mind, is especially if you're not doing things like comps, you're taking Leah's advice, you only have to do this once. So you don't have to do something new every time you have a listing appointment. You could have everything simply designed, ready to go. So my homework assignment for you this weekend and through the rest of this week is create your pre-listing / marketing proposal package. Because then once you have it done, it's just print and go. You could even have these bound and ready. Okay, so I keep talking about bound. I am talking about those spiral bound machines that they have. I have one. I bought one at Staples for some stupid cheap amount, however many years ago. And it literally is just a machine. You push it down, it puts the spiral binding in it. It's got a clear cover, it's got a dark, thick back on it. And your whole presentation, again, boom, is ready to go. You can go to places like Office Max or Staples, and they will do this for you as well. If you do any sort of design inside Canva, Canva also has binding options. So if you move your stuff over and you create all of your presentation inside Canva, you would be able to just have them print those off at a discount for you as well. So that's the ROG one. Okay, so now let's be gentle. This is the old Kramer team one. If you really, again, want to stand out, I said, hey, you could have these ready to go, no worries. And if you do have somebody else binding them, you'll have to go with more of a generic photo on the front. Because I invested in my own little binding machine, as part of my initial research, remember, because you're going out to the property, you're checking things out, I would take a photo of the front of the house and I would actually use their house photo on the top page, my cover page here of my marketing proposal. So I've already shown them that I am taking the steps and making the effort to put my best foot forward in marketing their home and getting to understand what their needs are. I'm just setting a higher level of professionalism. But whether you do or not, then just again, use some Arizona style home. I hate this. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a person who loves a bunch of words on a page. I like graphics, infographics, things that are just eye-catching. If I were to do this now, I'd probably pop this into like chat and say, hey, turn this into an infographic for me, or make this into some sort of graphic that's aesthetically pleasing and still conveys the information I want it to convey. I wouldn't just have paragraphs on the page. But you can play with those types of things and see what you're most comfortable with. I know bios are kind of hard, right? Like, I guess I could have little stick figures doing different things, and ultimately that could be indicative of what I do in life. But realistically, I think that you will have to have some words on there. One of the biggest conversations that many of you are hesitant to have is about compensation. And I know this. And because I'm dirty, I've already created a memorable way to reference this page, and it's the C word. If some of you don't know what the real C word is, don't worry, it's okay. You don't need to. As far as we're all concerned here, it's going to be about compensation or commission. That's fine. But in the wake of these changes that we underwent in 2024, we have to be extra cautious in how we're presenting this now, right? But one thing that I have always recommended is give choices. If you don't want to do this, that's totally fine. Then just go ahead and put what your compensation amount is. It doesn't have to be tiered like this. And then list all of the different things that they will get for what they're paying. But I know the psychology of the human brain, and they like to be decision makers. They may not be good decision makers, but they like to have choices. So with that, I designed, okay, I'm going to have 3 different packages, just like the car wash, and they can pick which package they want. And based on that, that's going to be reflective of what they're getting in exchange for what they're paying. Now, Obviously, I did XYZ. You can name them whatever package names you want to call them. I just did the basic silver, gold, platinum, however you want to operate this, right? But I will tell you, I had tremendous success with doing a tiered compensation structure like this. It really resonated with homeowners, and 9 times out of 10, they would pick the middle package. This is just herd mentality. So, and this is by design, right? Because what package has the most items on it? I know my target. I'm trying to make it's the biggest box. It has the most items listed on there. And it's right in the middle because that's what I'm trying to get them to choose. So keep that in mind. Okay, whatever your target compensation is, that's the one that you want to draw the most focus to. Now, again, this is very dated. You could do very pretty graphics at this point where one of them is more forward facing than the other. Again, I'm trying to draw their attention to my desired package. And then you just go through, okay, what are some of the things that I would offer for each of these? Many of these things, I laugh because I'm like, I don't even know what that is. There might be some truth to that. I'm not going to lie. And that is because one of my partners, my lender, if you're using a system like Rocket Lister or Lister Pros, check and see on their websites what they offer. Same goes with your lenders and your title companies because they have supplemental marketing tools that you don't even need to know much about. All you need to know is, hey, I send somebody an MLS number and they market it on this one, this one, and this one. So you can really explore those and come up with, okay, what are some of these things and how can I use them? And then figure out based on that, what package do I want to put it into? So obviously, some photos are always going to be standard. That property panorama tour, that was a former thing offered for free from Armless. Find out what they're offering now. This was just something that automatically occurred, but it sounds cool, so I put it on there. Your yard sign, your social media marketing campaign, your listing details on 1,000 websites. Okay, make a note right now. You all, as Realty One Group agents, have access to List Hub syndication. However, you must register for List Hub syndication. And the only way to do that is when you get your first listing with us. It has to be active. You need that MLS number. You need to go to listhub.com and you need to register for an account. You only have to do this once. Okay, so this isn't something that you have to do with every listing, but you have to have an active listing for them to pull your data from the MLS. So make sure that you do that because when I'm referencing the 1,000+ websites, that's where that's coming from. It's from that List Hub syndication. Then your gold package would be your kids listing agreements. I'll show you a sample of that. Those are super cool. Parents love those, and it takes very little effort to make it successful. Additional professional photos, aerial shots if available. We have to be cautious out here because we're so close to the base. Those aren't always an option. Featured on Keyboom. Again, no idea what that is. Cool. It's some real estate channel on somewhere, some streaming service that was offered by a lender. Home warranty with listing and buyer coverage. I'm a huge proponent of this. And when people say, well, who pays for that? I did. This was just a perk out of my compensation, assuming they chose this package, where I wanted to be sure that both parties had some additional coverage for peace of mind. Dedicated property website, full color flyers with a yard sign, $100 handyman credit for bins repairs. This was literally just me crediting my seller $100 at close of escrow if they had to make repairs. But it sounds nice. E-flyers to top real estate professionals, mobile device tours via text code. Those are just your QR codes. Those have really come a long way. Then your platinum would be all of the stuff in the gold, plus your Matterport 3D floor plan tour, a 360-degree video tour, a 1-hour staging consultation, partner up with a stager. They'll do the consultation for you for free. So it's not even, you're just making the connection at the end of the day. And then cocktail broker open events. So again, that's going really above and beyond. So keep that in mind when you are coming up with your pricing structure. Whatever your X, Y, and Z's are, whether those are flat dollar amounts or percentages, just make sure that you're not giving it all away. Now, what I would do to sort of sweeten the deal, if I had a repeat or referral client or something similar, or I just have somebody really balking about, well, I really want this, but I don't want that package. There are absolutely times where instead of lowering my compensation, I would do value adds. So let's say for a repeat or referral client, they would pay the gold package price, but I would give them 2 items from the platinum list as well. So it's just a little nicety, a little something to thank them for continuing to use me. So you don't always have to jump to reducing your compensation. Then I put in big, bold letters, compensation is always negotiable, and we offer various structures to best suit your needs. If you don't have to do the various structure, like I said, you can just have your one amount. That's totally fine. And then you can list everything that you cover for that compensation amount. Then there's a part 2. Honestly, guys, I don't know how necessary this is anymore. So when I first changed this, it was because we had 2 ways to handle compensation through 2 different documents. So some of you are new enough where you don't even know what I'm talking about, but we had a form called the CAB, and it was a compensation agreement between brokers. Our listing agreement also had an area to facilitate this, but that's all gone away now. That CAB form doesn't exist any longer. That line in the listing agreement doesn't exist any longer, because really what we've decided to focus on is that seller compensation addendum. That ultimately compensation was just going to be negotiated between buyer and seller in the purchase contract. But you might still have times where a seller says, hey, I actually want to use compensation to entice prospective buyers through their agents to come and visit the home. That is okay, so long as they understand where we can reflect that. So we could put it in the listing agreement that the seller agrees to pay, let's say 6% to a buyer's agent. Awesome. Where you can't put that though is in the MLS. So you can have that on your property flyers out front. You can have it on your rider for a yard sign. If agents call you about availability, you can let them know at that point, but it can't be in the MLS or anything supplemental to the MLS to keep it easy, which makes it a little difficult to even convey, like, hey, look what we're offering. So I don't know, honestly, that I would continue to have that in my presentation. I think I would just let my prospective sellers know that you may not be aware, but here's how we handle compensation for buyer's agents now. And the reason that I would still want that pointed out is so that they don't misunderstand whatever I have up here in these packages, that's my compensation. Okay, that's my brokerage compensation. That is exclusively for the listing side. That doesn't account for or include anything for a buyer broker. So I just want them to understand the difference, and I want to have that conversation. This is that list hub that I talked about, so it's a really good graphic to show just all of the syndication. Just a couple, I'm very much, like I said, fewer words, more photos, more graphics. So actually show what it is that you do. A breakdown of the home warranty. So I mentioned this already, but I would buy that 1-year home warranty. Listing coverage is either free or very low cost to add. You do not pay anything until closing. So there's no risk to me, and it's all potential reward. So if you've ever had a seller whose AC unit went out in the middle of a contract, it's a problem, because they are responsible for correcting, fixing, repairing, maintaining anything in that home while they're in escrow. So they're now on the hook for some additional costs that they may not have been prepared for. So home warranties don't cover everything. We know this, right? But major mechanical systems in the house are covered. There's some additional coverage that you can put into the listing period that will just, again, give them that peace of mind. And this helps eliminate some of the post-closing calls from buyers about, oh, this stopped working. Oh, you should have known about this. Oh, we're going to sue you. Come at me, bro. I hear this at least 6 times a week. You're no more special than anybody else, okay? Figure it out. You moved into the home 6 months ago. This is on you now. But it does help alleviate some of that. So again, it's just a good added perk. What are those home warranties costing? Anywhere from probably $600 to $1,000, especially if there's a pool involved. So do a little research. And then some graphics regarding pricing. So again, I'm already trying to put into their minds that they need to understand how pricing works. And we've talked about this bell curve of sorts, right? That they need to understand people who want to test the market, that's illogical. And it's illogical because your best opportunity for selling for the highest price is usually within the first 14 days on the market. What does that mean? That if you price too high, no one comes to look at it, no one submits offers, you've now bypassed your highest probability of selling for the highest price. So just trying to test the market, or hey, we're waiting to will it or willing to wait it out, does not work. It works against them, not to their benefit. So I need them to understand this is why we need to be the best looking house for the best price right out the gate. Because what will happen if through my CMA, your recommended list price is $750,000 today, and you decide to list it for $825, and then you slowly reduce, slowly reduce, slowly reduce. We're now 125 days on market, and you're finally like, okay, well, let's go for 750. You're not getting 750 now. At this point, you might have to drop to 700 because you are now trying to catch the market. You're chasing it. You didn't list for the appropriate price up front, and now you're stale. So the worst thing I can hear from a seller is, we're willing to wait it out, or we want to test the market. Those are not listings I would take, especially not in this market. And then a few other things that I would do. So, and again, you should be doing this regularly because as we discussed, market knowledge is one of your baseline fiduciary duties to your clients. But I would preview competing properties in the area, meaning I would physically walk through them and see what are we up against. So I know that I can go in and speak pretty accurately with knowledge about what our game plan needs to look like to be competition. Then we're going to plan a strategy. So discussing terms, if we're going to do some sort of list and lock, like Tony and Barb have mentioned, right? Where the seller is going to commit to an upfront, well, they can do the upfront fee or they can commit to the concessions, the 3%. And by doing so, they can market a lower interest rate. Okay, we stole this idea from the builders that it's not just price. We, in essence, want the ability to market, hey, you can have this home locked in at a 5.15% interest rate. That was a terrible number. A 5.25% interest rate, or a 5% interest rate, kind of based on where the market is. So we want to discuss that as opposed to just price. Keep in mind, because I get asked this very often, things like that, if you add it later, they're not reflected anywhere that triggers a buyer to take a second look. Does that make sense? Price adjustments show up on hot sheets. Price adjustments have a little banner that pops up that shows an adjustment was made. So, and price adjustments will then pop into other prospective buyers' portals and subscriptions because their parameters were set at 750. So now you're at 750, you're going to be viewed by more buyers. Adding things like a list and lock after the fact doesn't do any of that. So it's great if another buyer happens to catch it, or if a buyer is watching it and they see that change in the public remarks, but it doesn't trigger any sort of activity otherwise. So generally speaking, what you have to work with to create more interest is going to be price. Promote a marketing program designed to achieve your outcomes, of course, and then the energy of us into achieving that, which is ultimately why we're going to have this discussion, and we're going to work it all out up front for what needs to be done to get your home sold. I don't know where this statistic came from, but like so many other statistics online, it probably has some truth, but it's not validated anywhere. I have made this statement before, and I'm going to make this bold statement again. Pricing is the issue 100% of the time. 100%. And let me tell you why I say that. Let's say our $750,000 house. What if we listed it for $350,000? Would it sell? Of course it would sell for $350,000. It would sell 50 times over for $350,000. So if you're telling me that at a certain price point, it absolutely will sell, then what do we have to work with? Deductive reasoning says that pricing is then the issue. Now, I'm not going to be so crazy as to say there are not other things that can help generate interest in your home, like making sure it doesn't smell like cat piss, like making sure that the front porch or patio is swept in the mornings before showings occur, like don't be smoking out inside your home because not everybody enjoys getting a second high as they're walking through the house. All of these things, you're laughing, I've personally experienced. Welcome to showing homes. I have come across dead things inside houses. Okay. Those of you who weren't around in the REO foreclosure days of the 2008 to 2010 era, you have no idea what you missed out on. Let me tell you, there was a lot happening in those houses. I have walked in on people in compromising positions with people who were not their spouses or significant others, people doing things in closets, people who just decided, you know what, I'm a tenant. I don't really want this house to sell. I'm going to sit butt ass naked on my recliner in the living room and not say a word to anybody as they walk into the house. There are a lot of other reasons that a home might not be selling, but even that, I don't. The butt ass naked guy's not conveying. So at the end of the day, if I can get a great price on the home, then I'll take that all day long. He can move out. But a lot of people can't see past that kind of stuff. So this is when we get into the staging, making sure the home smells good, making sure it's cleaned, all of those types of things. They help attract a buyer at the right price. But some other things. Okay, so we know if a price point is too high, buyers won't even look, right? They're just assuming, well, you're not going to be willing to negotiate enough, so it's not worth my time. We're not going to take a peek. Comparison shoppers, they're just going to go ahead and submit an offer on another property. They don't need yours. There's 24,000 other active listings out there. They'll find a different one. Properties left on the market for extended periods of time. We feel like something is wrong with them. And honestly, guys, in a lot of cases, there is. And if you physically walk through the property, you're going to find out what that is. Other salespeople, they know what things should be going for. They're probably going to discourage their buyers from even taking a look because they're assuming something is wrong or that there's just not going to be any negotiation room. And again, we discussed that bell curve. That pricing is ultimately you're going to sell for less because you've just waited this out too long. Then I have a couple of things for them. Now, some of these may not apply. So you might want to go through this list and just make sure, like, hey, yeah, that's all Arizona-based stuff. Some of this is just what I pulled offline at some point in the past. But I have some general pointers for them that I want to be sure this is really in advance. Oh, Brian, did you have a question? Nope. Okay.
Nope, I
So
think that was an accident.
they happen. A happy little accident, isn't that what the process? We'll go with that. So these are things that I want them to do in preparation of us putting the home on the market for the most part. Some of these are also things that I want them to do regularly. Okay. Some people do not know how to clean their home. I have come across this. So I'm trying to give them some very specific ideas, and you might want to modify this and have more of a discussion with them again after you've walked through the property and during your actual listing presentation with them. I would likely have a full other list of things that they need to do because I've already walked through the house. Now, one thing to be cautious of. At one point, I did my job so well and told them all of these things that they should do. It was painting, it was cleaning, it was reorganizing. I told them where they should put this couch and that chair. You know what? They loved the house so much after they were done cleaning it up and organizing it that they decided not to sell. So that's always a caution as well. Just make sure that you are offering as much good advice as possible, but maybe have the listing agreement locked into before they start all of that. And then showtime. So same thing. This is just a checklist for them to be able to go through to make sure that they're doing everything they can to put their best foot forward when it comes time to showings. So don't be home. If possible, you just make people uncomfortable. So please go. Make sure your drapes, curtains, shades, everything is open, which means your windows should be clean. Something that a lot of people are going to have to do after this monsoon season. If you're going to have items that will not convey that you think a buyer might want, yes, you can tag them, but honestly, my better recommendation is just remove them. Remove them, potentially replace them with something else if it's like a light fixture, but out of sight, out of mind, don't even have them out there. All lights are on, and this is another little just tidbit. Have them make sure that all of the light bulbs in the house are the same color and the same wattage. Both from a visual walkthrough perspective, but even from a photography perspective, it looks very odd when you have one warm light and a whole bunch of cool lights in the same room. That's all your eye sees. It's just automatically attracted to that. So make sure that they're all functioning, because let me tell you, then all of a sudden the home inspector thinks that the electricity in the house is not working correctly because one light bulb is burned out, and now we have to deal with this on the inspection report later. All lit, all working, all same color, all same wattage, unless there's certain parameters for like outside lighting. No dirty dishes in the sink or counters, keeping your trash cans emptied, toilet seats down, toys should be put away. Play some soft, easygoing music. Again, just different things that you can do. So there's a checklist of this. You may have others. I die every time I read this, because apparently the house being comfortable in the summer is 78 degrees. No, my house being comfortable is apparently the winter setting at 68 degrees, because I would melt if I walked into a house that it was 78 degrees. But I know it's Arizona. It's expensive to keep things cool. So definitely don't have it going up to 85, 86. 78 is a pretty happy medium. Another thing that a lot of people like to do in their own homes, and generally it's to cover up smells, which is why we're going to tell them not to do it. Don't use strong candles, plugins, or air sprays. Like, you don't need to do that. You can bake something a little earlier. You can maybe put some cinnamon sticks and some like vanilla oil on the stove top and just let it boil for an hour or so before showings. Or use really, really light and infrequently placed plugins, but don't overpower your house with scent. All right, that's Leah's presentation. I'm checking the chat. Did anybody have any specific questions? They're wonderful. Put a memo. Awesome. Oh, good, Michelle. Yeah, I think those are cool. Do you mind, putting it in the chat or unmuting yourself and tell me where you got your boxes? Brian, we don't have such a thing as standard rates.
Yes, I got my boxes on Etsy.
Okay, good. Oh, so that's where I found that other one too. So, okay, super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, and they're, like I said, my clients absolutely love them. And it was so cool to see them actually putting all their items in that one spot. They told me, actually, I've used it on a few clients, and all of them have said it's so nice to have one location to put all my stuff and find it.
Well, and then I loved nothing more than I would go to their house and it would be sitting out on the countertop.
Yep.
And I periodically, if I was also up against other agents, I would get calls from them and they're like, what is this basket that you have sitting on this person's counter? Like, well, I'm getting a listing. I don't know about you. Which also leads me to another funny little situation. Periodically, when you're going through, and this is part of the listing presentation, guys, by the way, this is more of a, hey, when I'm talking to them, do they have any objections? And if one of the objections is, well, we really like all you have to offer, we'd like to work with you, but we are meeting with so-and-so tomorrow, or we have a couple of other appointments. Always ask them, is there anything I didn't cover, or anything that concerns you that would make you feel like I wouldn't do the best job in getting your home sold? And you're putting them off kilter, right? So they're like, of course, no. I said, well, if you feel that way and I feel that way, let's work together. And to make it easy on you, I know that those can be awkward conversations. So if you let me know who you're meeting with, I'll give them a call tonight and let them know that there's no need, that we're going to go ahead and we're already working together. I'll cancel those appointments for you, no problem. List Track is a great tool for tracking views. Absolutely. Excellent. I'm sure, Jason. I know it's crazy. Believe me, it used to be worse. I will answer. So, Brian, I know I kind of said tongue in cheek, no standard, right? I will let you know that my compensation structure at the point, and I don't know if it would be the same now based on conditions, but they were half percentage intervals. So it would have been like a 2, a 2.5, a 3, a 2.5, a 3, a 3.5. If you're doing flat fee commissions, then you could do that a little differently as well. But you could do full percentage differences. You could do 0.25% differences, just however you wanted to structure that. Yes, yes, yes. You are correct. Twyla, we're not done yet. All right, so going back into this, and now you have your general idea for listing presentation. These are, if you don't know what to make your pages about, these are some ideas. So I showed you what mine had. Maybe you liked some of them, maybe you didn't. So I put together 32 ideas. Do not make your presentation 32 pages long. Okay. Realistically, under 15. And mostly graphics and things that are easy to see and read. Because again, this is just a precursor to our actual listing conversation, to me actually going into their home. But I do want to cover some important things, especially if you're uncomfortable with certain conversations. Like you're already going to have the pricing conversation with them because you're going to go over your CMA. If you're not super comfortable about the compensation conversation, then definitely have that in your presentation. But I would pick a few things. There's some really good information out there that's available to you, like with NAR housing stats, which I will share when I send out the recap, just so you can pull, hey, here's where buyers are searching. So when the seller says, I want you to do 18 open houses this week, you're like, but that's not how buyers are finding homes. And now you have the actual statistics to support that. So pick, like I said, probably your 12 to 15 pages that you want to cover. This is another thing that I add. This is not one that I put in the presentation itself, but this is something that I would bring to the appointment, or this one I might potentially leave with them just to let them know, I know, I see you. I know what you're doing. You're telling me you're not sure about price, but ultimately you have absolutely looked at least one of these websites. So I went ahead and I compiled all of this information in advance. And then I make this nice little notice at the bottom that these third-party sites do not account for location, condition, or upgrades. How do we price homes? What are our three major criteria for pricing homes? Location, condition, and upgrades, and time. But ultimately, these sites are using what we want to avoid, which is a very basic standard price per square foot. As we discussed with the CMA class, that doesn't fly. We can't do that because the actual pricing is like a quarter of that value of square footage. So you can't have this comparison. This is also really bad if you're, like I said, you're a 2-story home in a family community that's a quarter of a mile away from an active adult community on golf course lots. So I want to let them know in advance. I've checked it out. I know. I know what you're looking at. This kids listing agreement, there will be a link for an editable version, and you can do whatever you want with it. AI can make this way better than it currently is. This is something that I found off of Etsy, interestingly enough. And it's just a small 1-page document that ideally I will have a conversation with the parents in advance about, because I want to know what are age appropriate chores for them to do to be rewarded for. Obviously, a 2-year-old is not going to have the same agreement with me as a 13-year-old. So I just want to work with the parents to come up with a realistic plan. And then we can also discuss what might be an option. Some of these, look at this, extra screen time. Leah doesn't even have to pay money for that reward. That's just something that I put in together because I'm a genius. I'm like, how can I get out of here mostly unscathed, as inexpensively as possible, but still achieve the end goal, which is to get that home sold? So that's a great option. But it could be ice cream. And those are just like ice cream sandwiches or some Otter Pops that I bought and I bring them as we get closer to closing. But I want the buy-in. It's hard on kids to move. And it's hard on parents because it's hard on the kids. So this just gets them more involved, more engaged in the process and excited about it. So almost every time I utilize these, it was always, tell Miss Leah I did this today. Let Miss Leah know I made my bed. Let Miss Leah know we got this taken care of. They were so excited about it, and parents absolutely loved it. My favorite one is 7 children under the age of 5. That is one heck of a haul for these poor parents, and they did such a sensational job. And it really was because the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, multiple births, obviously, they were so good about helping their parents out, and they wanted me to know after every single showing what they did. So again, it's just a great way to win over parents and to help get the kids engaged. I gave you a little bit of bonus content from the Book of Yes. So this is probably tied in with your CMAs as well. But I mentioned multiple times this we want to test the market or we want to try something at a higher price. No. And these are two really good answers. If you have not read the Book of Yes, I did not make that one of your homework assignments for this summer school session, but it is really good. It's literally a book of objection handling. And it's always to get people to agree with what you want them to do. So the first answer to handling this is, of course, there's always an option to test the market. The good news is that several of your neighbors, and then you're going to have your expired and canceled listings, and ones that have been on for 500 days, have already tested the market for you. And their results show us that starting at a high price works against you. Like, how are they going to argue that data? You've brought facts to the table, and now you're letting them know, hey, we understand people want to try that. Good news, you don't have to. Somebody else has done that for you. And now here are the results. The other one is a little more convoluted, but I like the messaging behind it. So I'm trying to figure out how can we shorten this. Um, a sold listing may show 146 total days on market. So the obvious conclusion would be that it took 146 days to get it sold. However, the listing history tells a different story. So, for example, listing had 3 price reductions, one after 30 days, one after 96 days, and the last one after 140 days. It didn't take 146 days to sell. They spent 140 days testing the market. And then once they got to the right price, it only took 6 days to get it sold. So I think that those are some strong conversations to handle those objections and just something to have in your back pocket when you go in. Another thing we discussed about vernacular, make sure that it resonates with your consumers, your clients, prospective clients. And when you're talking about what you're going to do, so obviously this 10-day marketing blitz, this is to coincide with the concept that we want to come out the gate hard and fast so that we're under contract in 14 days. So ironically enough, I've created a marketing blitz. So some of those things that were on my compensation page, they are all going to run hard and fast for those first 10 days. My paid social media campaigns are going to run for 10 days. We're going to do an open house every other day for 10 days. So you come up with a plan like that that says, I'm in this. I'm in it to win it, and here's how, and now I need you to participate as well. And when all else fails, if you're at the listing appointment and you really don't know how else to get their attention or make yourself known, here's just a little tactic that you might want to learn. Your homework, you're done. Happy graduation. However, you still should be continuing your 1 habit, your 3 calls, your 6 notes, and your 3 ads every single day. You should be reading Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents and Unreasonable Hospitality, as well as performing your savers daily. If you don't know what savers are, reach out to me later. I will share with you, or better yet, read Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents and you'll know exactly what the savers are. But it is a morning routine to really create success. And just a little bigger. Congratulations, everybody. You've survived summer school. I know, that's good. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, I'm taking one last look at our comments here. I have really lived, Brian. This is very true. Beyond what I ever wanted. Yep, we got through that. I'll share that. I have 2 drastically different listings coming at the same time, and my first listing as a noob, too. Jason, I have a question about this, but I don't know what the question is.
It's so I know you were referring to how buyers. So I'm primarily 99.9% a buyer's agent, showing agent, right?
Mhm.
But so I ran into your overpriced thing. I get emails every day from a line saying price just reduced on the house you just showed. Like, so I know this really well right now, this issue. So now I have 2 listings coming. I got a listing from a person who just passed away and the kids don't want it. And they're like, get it to an investor. We need to get rid of it. And so I'm working through that right now. And then my other one is a buyer that just did a new build and they want to list their property that's in Glendale right next to the Cardinal Stadium. And Zillow has it way under what it actually is worth compared to all the VRBOs around it. So I have 2 completely drastically different situations that I would probably want to sit with you for a few minutes individually to go through, because again, they're both my very first listings and they're so different. I just need some coaching.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's a great point too, right? Because I think we all assume that sellers want the same thing. But to your point, especially the kids who just want to unload it, they may not. And we do have situations like that where getting the highest price isn't their ideal outcome. So then we need to discuss, well, what does this actually look like? Book of Yes. Deb, you can get that on Amazon if you just search under their Kindle section. Listrak is a great tool. Yes, it is. And that is actually a provided tool with Realty One Group. So that is inside your one login. All right, everybody. That's all I have for you. Again, congratulations. I will get that recap email out later today with some additional links and resources and things for you to utilize. And as always, if you have questions, let me know.
Thank you, Leah.
My pleasure.
Thank you.